This is Esther. She's waving goodbye to her uncle Mordecai because she's off to take part in the very first Miss World Beauty Contest. Esther was an orphan, looked after by her uncle. They were immigrants, living in Susa in Persia. Their family had been forcibly relocated when their home city of Jerusalem had been destroyed by warfare. Now Esther was such a stunner, with a sparkling personality to boot, that she won the beauty contest hands down. Oh, I forgot to mention, the prize for the Miss Media and Persia beauty contest was that you became queen. One day, Mordecai overheard some men planning to assassinate the emperor. Well, of course, as well as being a good citizen, he was worried that Esther might be hurt. So he told her about the plot, she told the emperor, and as a result, the assassins were apprehended. Now, it came about that the emperor appointed a new prime minister named Haman. Haman was a bit full of himself, and he insisted that people should bow down to him whenever he passed by. But Mordecai wanted to honour God alone and refused to bow down to Haman. This made Haman furious. He devised a wicked plan to kill Mordecai and, in addition, to exterminate all of Mordecai's people, the Jews. So Haman had a conversation with the emperor, in which the big I word and the big T word featured prominently. You know the kind of thing. Your Majesty, I fear that we have a significant immigrant problem linked to terrorism. I'm also worried about WMD. What's WMD? Weapons of mass destruction, Your Majesty. To give him his due, Haman was a very clever politician. He managed to persuade the emperor to make a law that on a fixed day all the Jewish people should be killed and their property confiscated. Well, you can imagine just how upset Mordecai was when he heard the news of the emperor's edict. It didn't help when he realized it was his own actions that had prompted Haman's evil scheme. When Esther heard about Mordecai, she sent a messenger to find out what had upset him. He told her about Haman's edict and begged her to go to the emperor to plead with him for the lives of her people. Now, up until then, Esther had kept quiet about being a Jew. Moreover, the big problem was nobody, not even the Queen, could visit the emperor without being invited. Some had tried in the past, but without much success. They had just been executed on the spot. Esther decided that she must speak to the emperor on behalf of her people. So she went to see him without an invitation, knowing that this might be the last thing she ever did. Before she went, she and her people prayed to God and fasted for 3 days. God answered their prayer, and the emperor was delighted to see Esther. He promised to give her whatever she asked for. Wisely, Esther did not straight away ask the emperor for what was on her heart. Instead, she invited the emperor to a banquet that evening and to bring his prime minister, Haman, with him. At the banquet, the emperor was so taken with Esther that he repeated his offer to give her whatever she desired. Now this is where Esther showed how clever she really was. All she asked was that the emperor and Haman should return the following evening for a second banquet. Well, by now the emperor could hardly wait to find out what Esther really wanted. Meanwhile, Haman's hatred for Mordecai was growing stronger and stronger. he decided to request from the emperor a special permit to execute Mordecai the very next day, the day of the second banquet. But when he met with the emperor the next day, it was the emperor himself who raised Mordecai's name. Do you remember how Mordecai had uncovered a plot to assassinate the emperor? Well, apparently the emperor had suddenly remembered that Mordecai had never been rewarded for this. Instead of executing Mordecai as his plan had been, Haman found himself having to lead Mordecai in a parade of honour in front of all the city residents. Then that evening at the second banquet, things went from bad to worse for Haman. Esther told the emperor that there was a plan to kill her and all her people too. The emperor was astonished. "Who on earth could have devised such a monstrous plan as to kill my beloved queen?" he asked. "Haman," replied Esther, pointing at the Prime Minister. The emperor got up from the table in a rage and strode out into the garden to think. While he was outside, Haman hurried over to Esther to beg her to speak to the emperor on his behalf. He was just building up steam when the emperor came back in. "What is the wretched man doing to my queen?" shouted the emperor. So it was that Haman found himself on the receiving end of all that he had planned for Mordecai. The emperor made Mordecai prime minister in Haman's place, and through his wise counsel the Jewish people were saved from destruction, and the whole empire was blessed. So it was that Esther, a humble immigrant girl, followed God's calling with determination and courage, regardless of the personal cost, and was used by God to change the course of history. Who knows what God will accomplish through your simple trust in Him and selfless commitment to His service?